So hey, how's it going? This is Jair. I just want to, make this video coming off the heels of the election. I think some people are pretty surprised by the outcome. I'm not too much. I've kind of thought that he was going to win since the events of January 6th. But nonetheless, he said some interesting rhetoric on the campaign regarding tariffs and trying to compete with China on the global stage and trying to, stop China's rise.
If you look at what countries like China are doing to this country, they are eating our lunch.
So that kind of is the impetus for this video right here. I kind of want to, discuss some of the particular things about China that I've been noticing. So some of you guys may know me and know that I used to live in China in 2014. I used to be an English teacher. I learned Mandarin, so 我会说中文。我住在英国，在实习，我是英文老师。Anyway, so that just gives you a little insight to my background. And one of the reasons why I went to go live in China was to see that whole explosion of innovation and explosion of technology and growth for myself. I remember the Obama administration having a pivot to Asia, and that was kind of the situation. So I went to see for myself, and lo and behold, I saw many things and gained a lot of insight into not only Chinese culture and Chinese way of life and history, but also their trajectory on how they may do things in the future economically. So ever since then, I've been plotting the course of this trajectory with various posts and whatnot. So I've been following BRIC since 2014. And so one of the things I want to talk about is one of my early predictions from 2014, in where I discuss the actual rise in technological self-reliance and independence. So I, said that in 2014 and in 2018, that China's focus on reliance on Western technology is going to start to diminish significantly. And the reason why this is going to be the case is because China wants to move away from the traditional manufacturing role in the world. So what that means for them is, and as well as energy independence. So what that means for them is that they're going to try and put the lion's share of their central planning, as well as the private aspects of their industrial base towards a particular outcome. And so because the Chinese state subsidizes a lot of the industries and rewards the best performing private industries with subsidies as well, it seeks to create a system or an atmosphere that you have, various high quality services. So for every type of, Western version of an online tech service that you thought, there's a Chinese version. There's Weixin for Meta, there's Baidu for Google, there's Alibaba and Taobao for Amazon, there's Didi for Uber, and all kinds of other apps. And I'm sure there's going to be others that come out that I have yet to even understand, given the AI revolution. That being said, one of the reasons for this shift to the internal market is to not have so much Western dependency. If you think about the last two administrations in the United States, they've broken each other's successive sanctioning records on China. First by Trump, and then Joe Biden, exceeded that. So they're pretty, they're pretty incentivized to get out from under the United States and the Western hegemonic thumb. And so because of that, they are moving away from the SWIFT-dominated banking system and creating the CHIPS system of their own. It's their own clearinghouse. They're moving away from the IMF and the World Bank for funding and using the New Development Bank, or the NDB, and the AIIB, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, to basically finance most of their projects abroad and within Asia and with their partners. So one of the ways that China is trying to gain greater independence is through renewable technologies. So one of the leading manufacturers of solar panels in the world today is China. By 2020, China controlled over 95% of global polysilicon production, which is a critical material used in the production of solar panels. And then you have the semiconductor trade, which China has moved towards for, independence for that. And one of the beginnings of the trade wars in the early Biden administration was based on the idea of these silicone chips. That's one of the reasons why TSMC in Taiwan is such a big deal, and ASML in the Netherlands, because those are the basic Western suppliers of that technology, which China is. He has the cards for about, the manufacturing of it. They have the rare earth metals for it, so they can source the raw materials. They have the technical know-how, how to build and deliver most complex things. It's just a matter of refinement of that technology. Then we have the shift towards energy independence or energy dominance, because, to power all these technologies, China is going to need significant amounts of power and energy, which, as the geopolitical stage heats up, everything gets a little bit crazy, so to speak. They need, they're going to need to power things. So, they made a 31 billion investment just this year. And then, by 2021, China led the world with over 895 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity. All right, that's significant. Thing hitting the headlines lately has been the growth of the Chinese EV market, right? So the EV market, for those who don't know, the Chinese have basically taken over. You have Volkswagen basically shuttering because their sales are not doing pretty well, and they're the largest manufacturer in Germany. You have some Japanese manufacturers looking towards Chinese manufacturers. You have Mercedes going to, I believe it was BYD, Build Your Dreams, and asking them to assist in the new composition of the CL engine, the CL class engine. So you start to see the shift where the Chinese are looked at as the front runners or the forerunners of, automotive technology, which is no small feat because it's only been about 2 decades since their auto industry is even formulated. So that's one of the aspects where the Chinese dream has been realized. And since 2021, China has sold over 3.1 million electric vehicles, outpacing all the other countries in the world. And this also puts them in line with further green goals to try and reach carbon neutrality or carbon zero. So they have the most incentivization with their market to do so, and the most ability to do so at this particular time. And another key factor that the Chinese have as an advantage in this push towards, hegemonic status on the globe is the rise of their consumer economy. We take for granted that it's 1.4 billion people there. Many of them are sophisticated consumers and shoppers. They know foreign luxury brands. They've been the largest consumer of foreign luxury brands for quite some time. So they are very prepared and willing to, buy internal products. In 2019, I made a post in response to, I believe, a publication. But one of the things I said was, they have a bigger internal market with greater purchasing power parity. As what do you expect? Well, that's one of the reasons why, and that has, diminished a little bit given COVID, but they still have one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And that 1.4 billion person population and market is larger than all of North America and Europe combined. So you take into consideration the scale of the actual economy and the demographics, and you take into consideration the internal markets and what services and products and companies are available. And then you start to see a picture that is forming. And the Chinese way of doing things, which is a hybrid kind of capitalist, socialist, or rather socialism guiding capitalism, which is with its planned economies, right? But still with some market principles. You have this idea that you can basically plan for the social good, which it seems that they have been doing. Yeah, so one of the things that I mentioned before was the planned policies and social initiatives that have helped grow the Chinese nation state to what it is now. And those were implemented by the CCP, which obviously the CCP stands for the Chinese Communist Party. And so when you hear, or even when I said that it was a hybrid, it's not really truly a hybrid. It's really communism with some capitalistic tendencies, right? Especially in the market. So those tendencies have allowed it to, gain some pretty extraordinary feats, some of which the world has never seen before, like 7% GDP growth for such a sustained period of time. I believe it was over a decade. You also have the significant poverty reduction. In the last 30 years, about 70% of all poverty reduction in the world came from China. And specifically, China's poverty rate dropped dramatically from 88% in 1981 to under 1% in 2020, illustrating the success of those social initiatives. You have, yes, it's not perfect by any means. I'm not saying that. There's still significant ground to make up in terms of reaching social goals or betterment of society. But they are implementing them, and that is better able to be done with a planned economy. And what that means is that the government can direct industry, can direct all departments, they can direct everyone to basically go towards a one idea for progression, for development, and most things will be considered under those parameters, right? So that's one of the ways that the Chinese economy has been able to move so aggressively and so quickly with their planning and with their actions, because it's a concerted effort, essentially. So, of course, this ultimately has broader implications for a multipolar world, right? The United States, again, I mentioned that Donald Trump wanted to put sanctions on China, but those sanctions and tariffs are, basically a weapon of the past. I guess one of the things that China has been doing, and along with Russia, India, South Africa, and a couple of others in formulating the BRICS alliance since that I've been monitoring since 2014, is the idea of getting out from under those possibilities of being a U.S. Vassal or beholden or obliged or under U.S. ultimatums, basically. And so this rise in Chinese internal capabilities is going to only further their ability to move independently and produce soft power moves in Africa and Latin America, the Caribbean, Asia Pacific, and Oceania, and wherever in Central Asia and Middle East, as they're doing. The Belt and Road initiatives are strengthening in certain areas of the world, especially in Asia. Then you have the formation of BRICS, which now accounts for today 60% of all global trade between its members. So those things are pretty significant. And I think that the trajectory is only going to go further in the favor of China and the rest of them. So I've been looking at these shifts for quite some time, and we have to remember one of the reasons why these shifts are taking place is all those countries used to represent regional powers before the colonial era, and they were, subject to the colonial rule. So there's a kind of like remembrance about these things that I think we take for granted in the West, that really needs to be put into perspective on how and why these actions are taking place, So there it is. I think I can go into detail about why these things might be playing out in the cultural aspects of it, the historical aspects and precedents about it. But one of the things I wanted to, talk about is the fact that China is moving forward, and that, a lot of the things that I thought from the past decade when I first, reasons for first moving there and tracking the trajectory, over the course of the decade since until today, have been pretty accurate. So I will continue to monitor the situation. Thanks.